Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder of the U.S. Tennis Congress, P.J. Simmons.
Hello, my name is PJ, and I am a tennisaholic. To say that I'm honored and humbled and moved by having you all here in this room would be the biggest understatement of my life. Within this room is one of the most remarkable gatherings of professionals and experts that's ever been assembled, along with 200 of the most passionate adult recreational players you'll ever meet. You've come here from 31 US states and Canada, and as far away as Europe and Brazil, Dubai, Sri Lanka, and your home countries are represented by all these flags. Even my dad is here, although his flight is delayed. But there's a few other people whose flights were delayed too, unfortunately, including my best friend from Washington, who'll be here tomorrow. What unites everyone in this room, every single one of us, unlike the other Congress by another name up north, is passion and love for the greatest sport on earth. For all of us in this room, coaches and adult recreational players alike, tennis isn't just a pastime. It is part of our identity. It's part of who we are. It's part of our lifestyle. And I've had the privilege of getting to know many of you over the phone and by email over the recent months, learning about all of your stories. And we all bring very different stories. Some of us, like me, have dreamed for years of being able to take up tennis seriously. As a kid, I would watch Boris Becker when I was 15 years old. I'd go up to Stratton Mountain tournaments. But I had all sorts of other things that kept me away from tennis until I was 40 years old. And then I finally got serious. Many of you were, like me, on a mission to make up for lost time. Some of us played seriously as kids, but then as life took over, our families took priority, careers took priority, and then we came back to the sport. Some of you, like Bonnie in the film, met their life partners through tennis. And that includes two of the people who are on the faculty here, dear friends of mine, Saif Ali and Agnieszka Wojtowicz, who are now engaged and also met through tennis. Seth is actually here from Dubai, and Agnieszka, Aggie, is here from Europe. It's wonderful that tennis is this bridge that brings together so many important relationships, and I'm so glad to have so many of you as friends. What's really most remarkable about this group is their generosity of spirit, and it's really pretty extraordinary that this adult recreational player that didn't know most of them a year ago called, a lot of them just picked up the phone and shared an idea and a vision, and they all came together and said, we want to help build this thing. In particular, I want to thank Steve Keller from the Professional Tennis Registry. He was one of the very first people I called and was just so grateful. I was so grateful to have him be so wonderfully supportive. Faisal Hassan from USPTA, Jeff Salzenstein, Joseph O'Dwyer, Jeff Greenwald, Emilio Sanchez, Paula Sheb, Ryan Ginley, and Bob Litwin. All of you have been mentors in such a profound way, and we're part of this early process of building this, and I can't thank you enough. So on behalf of all of us recreational players who dream of the chance to spend a weekend with the likes of you, who dream of being treated as serious players, that our aspirations actually matter, even though we're never going to go on to be on the tour, that you understand that for us, the victory to get to that next level carries great meaning. On behalf of all of us, I want to thank you and ask you all to stand and have you all help me recognize this wonderful faculty. This weekend is really about building capacity and empowering all of you to make judgments and take your training to the next level. You will have, over the course of this weekend, many epiphany moments where you have things that you come in really wanting to solve, and you'll understand, oh my gosh, now I understand how to hit topspin, and I understand what's been wrong with my volley, and you can fix it, and it's actionable. But in many other areas, you're probably, the light bulbs are going to go off, and you're going to say, now I need to know what I know what I need to work on. And it's the combination of things that I hope is very powerful. But what's particularly that I ask you to be sensitive to is the fact that there, like in any field of teaching or professional endeavor, there are legitimate differences of opinion. There are going to be people that explain things in different ways. You might hear something that says, gosh, that's not what my coach at home says, which doesn't necessarily mean that your coach at home is wrong. You might hear something in one classroom and then on court hear something slightly different, and it may seem to be contradictory. I invite you all to talk that through with people, to process it, and recognize that tennis teaching and learning is as much of an art as it is a science. And it's up to all of us to kind of find those nuggets that really work for us and work with coaches that help us find those things and figure out, you have this unbelievable opportunity to train with all these different people. Find those gems that actually work for you. I just want to take 1 second to thank our founding sponsors and partners for this event. As somebody that's tried to pull something together like this, I never quite realized when I heard people get up and thank sponsors just how important they are. And I thank everyone that's on our website, on this page, and in particular the founding partners, the U.S. Professional Tennis Registry, the USPTA, the International Tennis Performance Association, and the Tennis Industry Association, which have been great partners from the very beginning. So one of the things that Mae West said that I thought was pretty wonderful and pretty apt for this weekend is that too much of a good thing can be really wonderful. And I took that to heart when I thought about who to ask to be up here for this opening panel. And as you patiently pick out your salads and wait for just another 40 minutes or so, and hear from 8 really amazing people, they all bring a diversity of perspectives that I think is just really, really significant, unique, and important. And it's that combination that I think represents, we could have invited every 52 of the members of the faculty to come up tonight, but I'd like to call them all to the stage. We've got Jeff Greenwald, who I mentioned, the former world champion in the 35s and 45s. Come on up, guys. Everybody on the panel, please come on up on the stage. We've got Faizal Hassan, USPTA Master Professional and co-chair of the, hey, Jeff, thank you. So Faizal, Will, where do you want people to? Will's going to sit here, and then you can sit wherever you like. Make yourself comfortable. And Faisal Hassan, who is USPTA Master Pro and co-chair of the USPTA's Education Committee. Mark Kovacs, a PhD and founder of the International Tennis Performance Association.
Thanks for having me.
Michele Krause, the global cardio tennis leader and just an amazing force in the sport from the Tennis Industry Association. Emilio Sanchez leads very little introduction, Olympic silver medalist, former #1 in the world, just an amazing coach. And at the Academia Sanchez Casal, and tomorrow night, by the way, one of the things that we're doing outside, this is where the Tennis Olympics are going to be. You're all going to be on teams. I probably saw your team on your name tag. We're going to have a silent auction to benefit a couple of great charities, one of which is overseen by Sujay Lama on our faculty. And we have a package that Emilio has kindly offered to go down to train at his academy down in Florida and do an hour private with him. So I urge you to take a look at that tomorrow. We have Ann Smith, PhD and 10-time Grand Slam champion. And I can't resist telling this brief story. So the next person I'm going to invite to the stage is Fred Stolle, who has won 18 Grand Slams. And I met him a while back, and he was gracious enough to agree to come. And I had posted on the website, he was a 10-time Grand Slam champion. And just to testament to how nice he is, I get this very nice voicemail message from him saying, PJ, I just point out, not a big deal, but it's actually 18 Grand Slams. And all so, and with that, I'm out of the picture. Thank you all so much for coming, and thanks to all of you on the fact. Oh, and then Will Hamilton, who is a self-professed inventor of silly handshakes. And that's his bio for the U.S. Tennis Congress. Will, thank you so much. Thanks.
Hello? Oh, there we go. Well, welcome, everybody. My name is Will Hamilton. I'm your 15-year-old moderator for this evening. Who's excited for tonight, right? Awesome. So before we get going, tonight's panel, PJ did a fantastic introduction. I'm so excited to be part of this, but we need to give PJ a little bit more love. Because a year ago, PJ was blogging about his journey to becoming a 4.5 tennis player. And he had this idea that he could combine a TED Talk with a tennis conference and create something new and something special, and here we are. Now, to officially, let me put it this way. Let me turn the mic over for the official part of the evening where we give PJ some love to Bob Litwin, who is just won the 65s national grass courts, both singles and doubles, because why stop at one? And was also the former #1 player in the 55. So, Bob, why don't you come up?
So I'm from New York, and I met PJ in New York at about maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And I have to say that after meeting him, I was like so amazed at what an incredible champion he has been in what he has done in putting this together. I mean, this is just such a remarkable accomplishment. And those of us who have played, we know, played a lot of tennis and competed, we know how much it takes to become a champion and how hard you really have to work. And conceptually, what PJ has come up with is just, it's just brilliant as far as I'm concerned. This may turn the tennis teaching profession in a whole new direction, that you can learn tennis in a setting like this, not necessarily hitting thousands of tennis balls. And just as somebody who's been in this business for so long, I want to thank PJ for that. But also, you know, the quality of his work is one that, to me, makes him a true champion in our industry. And I was thinking, I wanted to give him something just personally, and I hope that this feels like it comes from everybody, but it's something that I've got that's emblematic of winning a national championship. So if you could come up here just for 1 minute, I just want to give you something. When you win a national championship in the United States, you get one of these wooden boxes. A lot of people up here have these. But not many people in the world have them. And I know that PJ's dream is to become a better tennis player. So I'm going to give this to PJ on a sort of lifetime loan. And the point at which he wins his, he can give it back to me or not, I really don't care. But honestly, so much of what I believe is that you have to dream big, and you have to dream much beyond where you are, and just having something on his bookshelf that might remind him of his dream of getting better, I want him to have this. So. Thank you.
So, sorry, it's hard to follow that up. You know, this is going to be an amazing weekend, and I know everybody here is so excited. Oh, there we go. But, you know, in looking at this event, there was one thing that kind of gave me pause. Sort of was bothering me, and maybe you picked up on this. The name. So, you're basically going to take the least popular institution in the United States, the U.S. Congress, and you're going to put tennis in the middle of it. I don't get that entirely. I mean, did you gather us all here to kind of hang out and not get anything done? Because then it makes sense. Then it's perfect. But actually, you know, listening to your remarks, it does kind of click with me, because PJ was talking about this amazing faculty that we've got, just the top minds in the game. Well, we have a room full of people who all think they're right about everything and aren't going to agree on anything. So it sounds exactly like Congress. But PJ, I can empathize with the difficulty in naming a thing. Because when I was trying to start my website, I couldn't come up with a name. And I had this long list of names in front of me, and what am I going to do here? So finally, I just sort of threw up my hands and did what any 25-year-old would do, and I chose the name that would irritate my parents the most, fuzzyyellowballs.com, which my friends refer to as the only tennis website that will get you in trouble with your spouse. Fun fact, data from our website, 100% of our users, every single one of them, knows how to delete their browsing history. So I found that fascinating. I wasn't sure how a computer joke was going to go over in this crowd. So speaking of segues, we're going to get started. And I am going to pull up my first question and sit down. Now, in lieu of a coin flip to see who would go first, I just decided that we're going to start with the person who has the most Grand Slam titles on the podium here. Makes my job easier. So, Fred, we're going to pass the mic over to you. Now, one small piece of housekeeping. This panel is all about getting the tips from the masters for recreational players, right? What are their top tips for everybody out here to get you playing better tennis? And this is going to be a talk show format. So Fred's going to say something, and then maybe another panelist wants to interject and offer their thoughts. And if that's the case, just sort of put your hand out, grab the mic, and say your piece. And if there's a lull, I'm going to ask a follow-up question. But otherwise, I'm going to let the experts do the talking. So, Fred, you're going to start us off. And you are known as a classic serve and volley player. You love to come to net. What people might not know about you is that you also coached Vitas Gerulaitis. And in 1991, Gerulaitis was playing Ivan Lendl in the Masters event at Madison Square Garden. Vitas was up 2-0 and had match points for a straight set win. And now I'm quoting Fred. I was trying to get Vitas to chip and charge, and I can still see the match point in my mind. Lendl hit a second serve. Vitas chipped it back, and Vitas took 2 steps forward and then 5 steps back. He lost the match point, and he lost the match in 5 sets. I was doing commentary on the match, and I nearly fell out of my chair because we had been working and working and working on this, and suddenly, what does he do? So I think many people in the audience, Fred, can empathize with Vitas in terms of being a little hesitant coming to net, taking that 1 or 2 steps forward and then saying, you know what, I'm just going to play it from the baseline and hopefully we'll hope for the best. So as a player who is comfortable and dogged about moving forward, what advice can you give to all the recreational players in the audience?
I'm going to plead the fifth. I'm
All right,
going to go back to Congress and do nothing. But, no, but seriously, the man over there, I've never seen anybody with a passion for the game. Now, you guys, I met him 2 months ago at the US Open. Came into one of the functions I was at, sat down with him, and he invited me here. I said, yeah, I want to see what all this is about. This is fabulous. So now I'll get back to Gerulaitis. But this, TJ, super job. And I like the lady next to you with all the hair too. That's pretty good too. But as far as I coached Vitas for 4 years, it was a great experience because he was very superstitious. And everywhere you went, he said, Fred, have a look at the Michelin guide and just pick out a couple of restaurants. So when Vitas was winning, you had to go back to that same restaurant. So when we were in Rome, when we were in Paris, damn, we ate well. Because I'd picked them out and he had a few victories and you have to go back to the same restaurant. But that particular night at Madison Square Garden, we'd been working very, very hard for a long time, and like everything else, it goes back to muscle memory. And second serves, that was Vitas' Achilles heel, was the second serve. We worked on that. Practice, he could get out there, he put that second serve on a dime, as we all can when you get out to practice. But when the gun goes and it's got to be on the line, as it was, he got the match point. He chipped and charged. The way he played Lendl was he chipped and charged, short backhand chip on the second serve to Lendl's backhand, came into the net, covered the volley down the line and knocked it off. And that worked until Lendl got into the rhythm, and then he could come over the ball a little bit more, and then he had 2 choices. He could go down the line or go cross-court. But on match point, you could bet your living dollar that if that came back, your last dollar, that if Vitas had chipped that ball and come to the net, that backhand would have gone down the line because of muscle memory. That's the favourite shot. Vitas, because of muscle memory, chipped, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And it cost him the Masters at Madison Square Garden that particular year. So it all gets down to when you get in and you've got a weakness, and you get in there and you get under pressure, it always goes back to muscle memory. Just think about that. When you're in that sort of a situation, you've got to try and relax and do something. But it always goes back to what was ingrained as a kid. That's why when there's a lot of different ways to teach folks how to play tennis today. I'm from the old school, and the topspin, I agree with all the way that things are going now. But if you're a veteran, if you're a senior player, like a lot of us old blokes out here, I was very happy to see that video because I realised there's a lot of old folks still playing the game, which is terrific. It's great to see. But don't, when you're that old, try and go and hit topspin and hit kick serves because you're going to go to hospital.
So I want to ask Jeff a follow-up question about that. Yesterday I was speaking to a mutual friend of ours, Brent Abel, webtennis.com. Unfortunately, he can't be here, but definitely check out his website. It's fantastic. And Jeff, as we know, has won the 35s and the 45s, but Brent told me that right here we've got basically your traditional baseliner, correct? But rumor has it you're trying to work moving forward into your game a little bit. And Jeff obviously is known as the mental coach, so maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience, maybe from a more mental, maybe emotional standpoint, because a lot of times you want to move forward, but you're afraid to. What if I get burned? What if I get passed? Whatever. So can you talk about that experience? Hopefully Brent was right and you're actually doing that. I mean, I don't know, but...
Yeah, no, sure. Hi, everybody. Yeah, so I think that we're talking about the comfort zone here, right? We're talking everybody, the moments we're in the match and the pressure's on, feeling the nerves. And I personally, I grew up at the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy. I spent a couple years there, so I learned the factory forehand, inside out, big forehand. And I got very comfortable on the baseline. And trying to find a way to expand my game and try to, I think what we're all trying to do is get better. I mean, we're all here. This is amazing. And we all want to get better. And there's in the video talking about getting to the next level. And we want to win. Of course, everybody, we like to win out there. But it seems like there's so much more available and I think so much of this is about mastery, and yourself and finding, expanding your repertoire out there. But to be in the moment, you're feeling nervous, and your go-to forehand is a safe cross-court shot that you think will probably get over, and maybe you'll win the point, please. And then, and you sometimes do win the point, which is probably your biggest problem. So to change that, you're probably not as likely, but I think when you reflect on what's important to you in terms of how you play, in terms of challenging yourself, that the moment that Vitas had there to chip and charge and actually execute and come in and finish it, it may not have worked in the short term, but I think I personally found that looking to get into the net and do something very different was very exciting, challenging, and I think that's we're all here to do that and challenge ourselves. So going out of the comfort zone does have value, even if it doesn't pull off the immediate win. We'll talk more about how to make these shifts, but I think the process is important too.
And I want to turn to you because and stick with the mental game theme, because you have, in reading your bio, 10 Grand Slams speaks for itself, but you had kind of an interesting professional career where you took 14 years off, and then you came back in 2005. And during that process, I don't know if I'm accurately describing this, but you sort of cataloged what you were going through as you were preparing yourself, competing, what was going on during a match, after a match, and you turned this into something called the Mach 4 system, where there's 4 components: the mental game, body language, intensity level, and cueing language. And the last 2, intensity level and cueing language, I think are fascinating concepts, and I think the ones our audience aren't going to probably be familiar with. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, I I went back and played on the tour in 2006. And my first tournament was in Midland, Michigan. It was a $10,000 event. And I played a young girl from Canada, et cetera. And I said to my coach, I'm like, what am I going to do? I mean, my forehand, I'm not hitting it well, right before I'm fixing to go out. And she said, well, just go out there, act confident, fake it. Just go out there. I said, what do you mean fake it? She said, walk strong, act confident, act like you know what you're doing, and then think back to the early 1980s, right? So that's what I did. And I hit some volleys like it was from the 1980s. I'm like, wow, okay. So it's basically about the strong body language. Every single one of you, these are things that you can control, right? Strong body language. If you don't have strong body language before you start the point, what's going to happen? Your technique's not going to be as good, right? And so Will's asking about intensity level. It's on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being you're swinging at the ball as hard as you can, okay? So we don't want a 5. We want your best range, and you train it during practice. You want to practice like you're going to play, and with the same focus. So if you work on your intensity level, most of you are probably going to be like a 3.5, 3 to 3.5 on your swing, right? How fast you're swinging at the ball. Because what happens when you get into a match, set point, slows down, right? The serve, oh, I just want to get it in, right? That's a kiss of death. You've got to keep your racket moving. So that's where the intensity level comes in. So that's another thing you can do right away is figure out what your best intensity level is. You're most comfortable, not swinging too hard and not pooping it either, right? So you want to keep it within that range on every single point, particularly match point, right? Like Vitas, right? And never change a winning game plan. That's what I thought of when Fred was telling us the story about Vitas. He gets up to match point, chipping and charging, and then he decided not to do it. So those are the times that we've got to use cueing language, which are words or phrases that we can say to ourselves. Before that, it would have probably been helpful for him to say, I'm going to take this second serve, hit it down the line, and cover the line. Lyndall always liked to hit down the line. So it's about what you're going to say to yourself before your matches, during your matches, is cueing language. It can help you control your emotions and help you control your technique as well. That's it.
I think there's a delay. There we go. Show of hands, how many people use cueing language at the moment? We got 1, 2, negative. We're
I'm
going
talking
negative?
about positive.
I think it's like a square root of something. All right, I thought that would be a good question. And let me ask you a quick follow-up. Just come back to the body language. You mentioned it briefly prior to the point you need to have good body language. Talk a little bit about the physical routine people use, because a lot of players, when you watch them on tour, you wouldn't need to know who they are, but you can tell exactly who the player is because their physical routines are so specific. How does that affect the mind as you prepare to play the point as well?
Well, Sharapova, I like her routine the best, right? She turns her back to the court and plucks the strings, and then she turns around. Let's not do Nadal. We can do without that. Good grief. But anyway, these rituals are things that players do before they serve. Every single one of you here should have something you do before you serve, something you do before you return. It helps your mind start to focus. That's why they do it. It keeps them calmer and helps them get ready to play that next point. And again, these are things y'all can do right away. That's the thing with the Mach 4 system. It's things within your control. You can't control whether you're going to win or lose, but you can control whether you can have strong body language, keep your best intensity level, cue yourself with positive, not, I can't believe I missed that ball, I suck, right? Tennis players always love that. So it's what you're going to say to yourself in between points to get you ready to play the next point.
Also, Will, when you, as Anne mentioned there with Sharapova, all you folks that watch the tennis on television, you have a look at all those young kids that are doing exactly what Sharapova does. She turns, goes up there, turns her back, and you're supposed to be ready to return serve when the server's ready. How many times is Sharapova ready? Not very often, but all the kids now are starting to do that for that exact reason.
So Faizal, I want to turn to you because we've got three days here. But when everybody leaves and goes back home, what can they do to build a foundation for ongoing success? What are the keys there to that?
Firstly, you guys are in for a treat this weekend. It's going to be awesome. There's a great faculty, and you're going to get a well-rounded training program. As players, I feel you need to be a complete player or holistic player. There's 4 things or 4 questions you want to be able to answer by the end of this weekend. Number 1, what's happening on the court? Number 2, what do I need to do? Number 3, how do I do it? And number 4, how do I process what just happened? Let me repeat again. Number 1, what's happening on the court? Number 2, what do I need to do? Number 3, how do I do it? And number 4, how do I process what just happened? Jeff, Ann, and Bob will be doing a lot on how do you process what just happened. Telling yourself, I suck, doesn't help. So they're going to help fix your brains up. This gentleman here, Michele, and the rest of the gang are going to fix you up physically, technically, and tactically. So that's what I think is going to happen this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you have no clue, just wait and see. Seriously.
So let's turn to Michele for a moment. And Michele, we've obviously been buddies for a long time. You've put me through the cardio tennis ringer. But I want to ask you a little bit about cardio tennis and specifically the game-based approach that it uses, which is a little bit different than the traditional instructional lesson that I think most people are familiar with. What's the difference, and what are the specific benefits to the game-based approach?
Good evening. It's great to be here. For those of you that are maybe not familiar with cardio tennis, the best way I can describe it is it's tennis on steroids. So it just takes our great sport of tennis to a completely different level.
Isn't that illegal?
It is. It's all good, though. So what a lot of people don't know about cardio tennis is that it really is predominantly game-based. So we're spending about 70% of the time playing very specific cardio tennis games. We're only spending about 30% doing drills. And the beauty of cardio tennis, and I'm listening to all these great minds, you know, and what they're sharing, and I keep thinking, wow, you know, we kind of do that in cardio tennis. We do that in cardio tennis. So all these little things, even from the mental to being comfortable moving to the net, these are all things that are enhanced through our games that we utilize in the cardio tennis program. And some of the benefits and some of the game improvements that you are going to find is you're going to find that you're going to be much more comfortable at the net. You're going to be much more comfortable in all parts of the court. You're going to be much better and more adept with spin and touch and control. Through our games, you're learning how to change the pace through competitive and cooperative games that we do. You're becoming a better all-court player. You are getting to balls that you normally wouldn't get to. You're learning how to deal with emergency situations. And what is tennis? It's a bunch of emergency situations. So, you know, we talk about movement and we talk about I want the best forehand and I want the best backhand. And we practice that and we train on it, and that's all great. But if you have the best forehand and you cannot get to the ball, doesn't do you any good. You're not gonna win the Grand Slam. So in any sport, no matter what it is, there's 3 components. You have your technical and tactical strategic training. Okay, you have play competition, and then you have fitness training, right? So cardio tennis is the fitness training component of our sport. So we should be utilizing our sport to train for our sport, and that's what cardio tennis is all about.
And you'll burn calories. Seriously, a cardio class, you'll probably burn as much in an hour as riding a treadmill. Treadmill, cardio, tennis. What do you think is more fun? Exactly.
Michele, I got to follow up. I want to have you give a specific example. I have a name for a player who, in doubles, the net man who just stands there like a statue and doesn't help his partner out. I call him Fearful Fred. And you've got a game in cardio tennis called triples, So describe very briefly what that game is and how it helps train Fearful Fred to not be so fearful anymore.
Right. So triples is going to make Fearful Fred not fearful. It's 1 at the net, 2 at the baseline. And so what we encourage through the game is that player at the net, you have nothing to lose, right? So you should be going for every ball. You should be lunging. You should be stretching. You should be reaching. Because guess what? If you miss it, you've got 2 people behind you that can still hit the ball into play, right? So it takes away all that fear. It takes that, oh, you know, I'm not going to try for that. I'm going to let somebody else get it. So you're in a very safe environment.
Yeah, I want to reemphasize that point. I mean, I think the safe environment is such a key thing where you're able to sort of. There's a guy named Josh Waitskins who is the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer was based on him. Anyway, he wrote the book called The Art of Learning. Good book. Highly recommend you read it. But it's called Investing in Loss. You have to be willing to fail, and I think something like triples is a great way to sort of take a little bit of the sting out of that. Emilio Sanchez. I have a very simple question for you. Why is Spain so much better at tennis than the U.S.?
Well, they mentioned 4 things, 3 things, triple. I like this triple thing. I have to try it.
I'll come play with you in Naples, okay?
I should meet her when I was coaching the Spanish Davis Cup, because my guys, they used to play only singles. So when I put them to play doubles, they didn't know how to cover. So with three guys, maybe they learn faster. So it took us a while until we started to win some doubles. But I think the competition is not about technical or tactical. All those guys, they are incredible good. Like Gerulaitis does everything perfect. It's a matter of how long you can last, which I think the Spanish, they are warriors, and they last very long because they do a lot of cardio tennis, I suppose. Second is about the memory or the mind and the objective. Is the objective from the Spanish players, I think, is they're more determined. I think from the other ones, we are a country where we used to be late growers compared to the rest of Europe, and I think the people who was in sport comes from a stage of class that there is a lot of hunger and wanting to get. And third, they are extremely good in handling adversity situations. And at the end, the Spanish players, they put a lot of passion. And passion makes a huge difference. I don't know if you hear the comment from Nadal when he won the French Open, and they asked him, if you limping, how still you can win, and how you can make it so easy to win? And he said, the ones who think that I like to win, they don't know me. What I like is the process to be competitive. And because I compete well, I end up winning. So my advice for the people will be to try to be the best competitors possible, and if they end up winning like him, perfect. But if not, they come out from the court with the head very high, which is what the Spanish normally do.
So Emilio, a follow-up. I visited your blog, which was very difficult because most of it's in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. So I was copy-pasting into Google Translate. Let's just say they have some work to do on that service. But the late Tim Heckler, a 30-year CEO of the USPTA, was a dear friend of yours and a mentor of yours, and he once sent his son to your academy because his son had lost his passion for the game. His instructions to you were simple. Please make my son enjoy tennis again. You did. He's now playing at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. What did you say to him?
Well, first of all, Tim was a tennis guy, and he always wanted to improve the level of the teaching here in the U.S. And I think what he did with the USPTA was outstanding, and I always admire him so much. And when was the chance for us to make the step and come here to the US, and he was the one that was pushing us and was calling us. We need that you guys come here to give us, to be a role model on how to teach. He always pushes. And he convinced us, and he at the end make some steps also for these people. He helped us a lot with immigration and all this bureaucracy that you have in this country, because they were not letting us in. So he helped us a lot. On top of that, he, as you said, he sent his kid, and because he always wanted. I think he had the dream, first of all, to be a coach, which at high level, which he never did. And second, that one of his kids play tennis, and they slowly go apart from tennis. No? So he was the only one who was close, but he lost the illusion. So he sent it to us, and we didn't do nothing special. We just do like with the other players, and tennis is a great sport and has the moments for it, and he found his moment, and now he's enjoying it, and now he wants to follow his career when he finished the university, probably as coach. He wants to be involved, and I think that goes with our mission. Our mission in our academies is to give opportunities, and I think we gave opportunity to him through tennis, and we are very glad on that. So we're very happy.
Got to work on my timing. Mark, we've got a question. I've got a question for you now, but it references another member of this panel. A 1964 Sports Illustrated article titled "The Outcasts Are Counted In" claimed that Fred smoked 5 cigarettes a day, while his doubles partner Roy Emerson smoked 6. So, Mark, sports recovery has come a long way since then. And as the editor of Tennis Recovery, a comprehensive review of the research, other than smoking a pack a day, what are some of the best ways recreational players can recover in between matches?
He sent me out well for that one. But I actually grew up admiring Fred, so anything he did, I agree with, first off. Secondly, it was also the environment. What are your competitors doing? It comes down to the environment that you're playing in. Certain things are appropriate for the pros, and if you go in the pro locker rooms, the discipline, the professionalism, the work ethic, the way they structure what they do is phenomenal. I mean, the top 10 guys do things very differently to the guys that are 100 to 200 in the world. They do it on a daily basis. The process that Emilio was talking about is very obvious. And it's the same thing around here. The players that succeed at whatever level, they're doing things a little bit differently. It may not be always that obvious, but it's that daily consistent work. It doesn't show in a week. It usually won't show in a month. But over time, it is the difference maker. And from a recovery standpoint, from a practical application standpoint, the research is telling us quite a lot, which is nice because people try all sorts of stuff for recovery. Most of it doesn't work. So that's my first warning is don't just try everything. Try to have a basis behind it. But nutrition is a huge one. If you don't take care of the nutrition, a lot of the other pieces aren't going to really have their benefit. So make sure that you know what you're doing from a nutrition standpoint. And everyone's a little bit different. So get some advice on that. The second big piece is flexibility. Especially as we all age, the flexibility issue becomes more and more problematic. You're fighting an uphill battle. So if you don't really get ahead of it and take care of it on a daily basis, it's going to show up in different ways. It's going to show up in performance, but it's also going to show up in time off and injuries. So make sure that the flexibility piece is done on a regular basis. The other big area is trying to figure out where does it fit with all the other things that you do in your life, from a stress standpoint, from a sleep standpoint, figuring out how to structure your practice sessions, your work schedule, your family life in a way that is most conducive. And most people sort of forget that piece. They understand nutrition a little bit, they understand flexibility, they understand training, but do you really understand how it all applies together in a holistic manner? Because the people that have the longevity and the success are able to apply those in the appropriate ways. So I think from a practical standpoint, really taking care of the simple things, the things you can control, that really focus on, we call it recovery, but it's really overall living. How can you improve your overall living so that you can become a better tennis player?
Mark, that's not being very civil as far as Roy and I are concerned. That's not very nice. You're a young fellow. I'm a little upset about that. But just to put the story straight, both Roy and I did work for cigarette companies. Because before open tennis came about, we played in the amateur years, and we used to share hotels and we used to share apartments at Wimbledon and so forth. Roy worked for Philip Morris. Now, Philip Morris, through Joe Coleman, did everything for the International Tennis Hall of Fame. He employed Arthur Ashe, he employed Manolo Santana, he employed Roy Emerson, Rafael Osuna. I worked for Rothmans, which is an English company in Australia. So when we played Davis Cup matches in Australia, Roy and I used to battle over who would take the cigarettes along to the cocktail parties. So that's what it was like in those days. And as far as nutrition is concerned and all that stuff, I understand the way the game's gone with that, but we never knew anything about that in those days. You'd go to Wimbledon and you'd get a car out there, you ate what was on the menu. You were lucky to get a bloody feed. So you ate what was on the menu. And that sort of got around to then stretching. And after finishing matches, there were not a lot of press conferences in those days. We used to go to press conferences if you were in a Grand Slam, you got the semi-finals. You used to go, and before that, you met the boys in the bar. And you think, oh, no, this is serious, and it didn't matter. So the Australians at that stage basically were involved in the game and were the top players in the game. So at the French or at Wimbledon, after you finished your match and you went and had a shower and somebody wanted a story, you went to the bar where the boys were and you knew the guys, that was a very important thing, you knew the guys that if you had a couple of beers and you told them something off the record and it appeared in the press the next day, those guys, it didn't take long for the boys to know who those fellas were and who the guys were that never ever appeared. Bud Collins was a friend of the Australians, a friend of all tennis players. Bud Collins could put a lot of us down. He never ever has, because everything that we did, he used to have parties at his house where he'd go around and try and find Foster's beer for the Australians when it came over here. And we had to play the next day, so to get back, we didn't drink water or go and have those electrolyte things that you got around there. We went to the bar, man.
So,
can I add one thing?
Hold on, let me interject. So, speaking of those electrolyte things, Mark doesn't work for a beer company. He doesn't work for Foster's, but he does work for the Gatorade Sports Science Institute. He's actually, Mark doesn't know this, but he's committed to, everybody in the room has a lifetime subscription or a lifetime free supply of Gatorade now. Courtesy of Mark. I'll take the yellow kind. Anyway.
Just one thing, there actually was a study published in a respectable scientific journal talking about the benefits of beer as a recovery drink. I'm not making it up. There are some properties in beer that has some potential to help recovery. One or two, not 7 or 8, though.
So, we've talked about recovery. I think a very important point that you're an expert on, Mark, that we discussed earlier, all the coaches got together at the bar. Just kidding. But we got together, and we're just talking about dynamic stretching as such an important component of your warm-up. So can you touch on that a little bit? And all the coaches here are going to be touching on it over the weekend, but can you just give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, so simply put, hopefully some of you do some form of warm-up before you practice tennis or do any type of physical activity. Historically, stretching was suggested, and static stretching, which is, think of touch your toes, hold for 30 seconds. That was the typical recommendation. Over the last decade, there's been a lot of work done looking at stretching, and the best way now to stretch is actually to do it dynamically, meaning put the muscle through a range of motion with a little force on it. So think of lunging or skipping or hopping, those type movements. That's much more beneficial to prepare the body for athletic performance. The research has shown pretty consistently that doing that type of warm-up improves your strength, speed, and power, whereas if you do a static stretch and hold for 30 seconds, it actually reduces your strength, speed, and power for about 45 minutes to an hour. So that may be new to some of you may have heard that before, but it's something that will be discussed further throughout the weekend.
So that's a nice segue to Faizal, because Faizal, you have authored an article called Acquiring Balance Skills Essential for Tennis. And the research that you did showed that junior competitive tennis, about 80% of the errors are due to losing balance. And the culprits are typically blamed as, well, you're hitting too far away, too close, whatever, but those are actually symptoms and not the cause. The cause is you're not moving and on balance. So can you explain a little bit what dynamic balance means? That was the term in the paper.
You've got static balance right now. I'm not talking mentally. I'm just balanced, right? Right, statically right now, I'm balanced. Okay, no motion. Dynamic balance is having balance while you're in motion. Tennis is more of a dynamic game. You obviously need to have dynamic motion and balance. That's basically it in a nutshell.
Staying balanced while moving, essentially?
Correct.
So how would you recommend, what are, let's say, three exercises you would recommend? Is there a particular thing you would say, do this first?
Well, first you start off with the head. The average adult head weighs between 12 and 15 pounds. Mine's probably less than some so lightheaded. But I mean, if your head is not centered, you're going to be off balance. How many times have you been told, keep your balance? Thanks a lot, yeah. Concentrate. Concentrate. Bob, concentrate. Well, thanks for telling me that. So many times you've been told, keep your balance, move your feet, whatever. Right, this weekend you'll be told how to balance, how to maintain your balance, etc. So the key things as far as balance is the head, the upper body. People put very little emphasis on the non-dominant hand when it comes to the upper body. Let's say I'm trying to hit a ball right now, and I've got my left hand down here. Is that going to help with balance? A tightrope walker in a circus. Aren't both hands important? That's important. Footwork's important. So to me, there's three: the head, the upper body, and the lower body. Footwork will take care of the lower body. Upper body, you work on the balance, and obviously the head. So those are the three things.
So we've got several minutes left, and to close our panel, I want to turn back to Jeff. Because in your book, The Best Tennis of Your Life, you touch on the importance of gratitude on the court. And I think everybody in this room is very grateful to be here. So I think it's appropriate to end with some words on that.
Sure. So those of you who've read the book, I do touch upon, well, I had lunch with a friend who was 6th in the world. And I asked him, how do you feel about your career now? He made about $5 million in the game, et cetera. And he looked at me and he looked very serious and he said, Jeff, the truth is I feel like a failure. I never reached #1 in the world. I feel like a failure. And I just think that's a really helpful sort of thing in terms of the backdrop of gratitude. If that's not good enough, if 5 in the world isn't good enough, if #1 in the world perhaps isn't good enough, that what we're really all here doing, I think, is learning. It's about self-growth, and what we're doing off the court can be reflected on the court. And when you're out there, how to make this practical, because we can all talk about gratitude, think about gratitude, but then we're actually on the court, that forehand goes into the net yet again for the 3rd time in a row. You want to be grateful then? How grateful are you feeling? And what is your brain doing to you? I'm going to teach you, those of you who come to my sessions, how to manage that brain and get the upper hand. And I think part of that, it's a perspective and it's a practical moment where you stay curious when you make a mistake, you stay present, you feel what happened, and I guarantee you'll begin to make adjustments that fix the shot, not by thinking about it so much, but also holding the fact that you're lucky, get this, to be losing 4-1 in the 3rd. You're lucky to be playing bad. You're actually lucky to be there. But it's to be more fortunate, curious, and hopefully this weekend we can all share that and find that space in ourselves to be grateful even when we're struggling a little bit too.
So in closing, I want to share my one piece of advice to all the folks in the audience today, and it doesn't have anything to do with tennis. It's a piece of advice I learned from a guy named Joe Polish, who got rich and famous as a carpet cleaner. I don't know how you do that, but he did it. And he has a concept called an elegant idea. And up on the screen there, we've got a word cloud with the biggest, the most common words are the biggest. My word was strategery, so it didn't end up there, but channeling Will Ferrell from SNL. But his suggestion for any conference is pull out the 3, 4, 5 elegant ideas, the things that really stood out to you, that if you were going to put them in your mind as a word cloud, they'd be the biggest words. And take action on those things first. They're going to be different for every single person. So that would be my humble recommendation. We've got a racket to give away, and Fred Stolle is going to be doing the honors, pulling the rabbit out of the hat, as it were. But before we do that, can we please just give a huge round of applause for our panelists? How awesome was this, right?